And in fact, her heart rate's high. Her pulse is 110. Her respiratory rate, normal respiratory rate might be 12 to 16. Her respiratory rate is 28. Now, what else is there? Blood pressure. Alex prides herself on keeping the blood pressure about 110/70. It's just the way she rolls. This particular day, though, look at this. It's up to 140/90.
Oh.
Okay, and as the mom's getting the feedback, something's going on. This is not Alex. Something bad. But she's in vivo. Now, of course, when you come in with the preliminary diagnosis of chest pain, you get the chest pain protocol. Okay? So they draw blood work, they get a CBC, they do a chemistry profile, they're checking cardiac enzymes, they're doing an EKG. All of which is okay, although the EKG does show a sinus tachycardia. But otherwise, no ischemic changes, no evidence of an MI. She's got chest pain, so let's get a chest x-ray. Stone cold normal. Okay. Then, anytime someone Alex's age comes into the ER, we're going to get a urine pregnancy test. Okay. Maybe something weird is going on. Maybe this is hormonal. Maybe this is crazy. Okay. Negative. Negative. They haven't even been on a date yet. Okay. So then finally, the ER doctor orders blood gases. Let's see what the blood gases show. It's going to be don't lose mercury. Now let's put some normal ranges here. Remember, for pH, it's about 7.35 to 7.45. PCO2 normal range is between 35 and 45. PO2, 80 to 100. Bicarb, 22 to 26. And this is in milliequivalents per liter since this is an ion. And then saturation is 95%. Okay. So the ER doctor looks at Alex's blood gases, and he says, aha, she's got an alkalosis, her pH is high. Then, as any good ER physician does, he goes to step 2, checks out the CO2. It's moving in the opposite direction. In other words, pH is high, CO2 is low. So immediately he says, okay, this is a respiratory alkalosis. Okay. And then step 3, he's looking at the bicarb. What is he really looking at the bicarb for? To see if there's what?
A metabolic.
Well, if there's a mixed metabolic or acid-base disturbance, but also to see if there's compensation. Okay? If in responding to the respiratory alkalosis, you have renal compensation, okay, then you would expect the bicarb level to be what? So there would be less buffer capacity, okay, for hydrogen. It would allow hydrogen levels to climb, bring down this pH. But why do you think we don't see any renal compensation? Because this just happened an hour ago.
Yeah.
Renal compensation takes hours to days. And we don't see any renal compensation. So this is obviously a respiratory alkalosis. And Alex's mom, what's her name again? Jolene. I love that song.
Yeah.
Okay. So Jolene.
I would sing that to her all the time. It would get
Jolene hears all this talking outside the examining room, and she hears them talking about alkalosis and respiratory, and she says, aha, I knew there was something going on with my little girl. Yeah, I can hear him talking about all this medical stuff. But yet,
Mom's a nurse, so
what's that? Your mom is a nurse?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so this fits perfectly with the story.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, all right.
Now, so the doctor comes in, and she's waiting for the doctor maybe to give her some type of injection to get her all better, okay, to do something. Instead, the doctor pulls out a paper bag, and he gives it to Alex and just says, okay, just breathe into that, and he leaves. And Jolene says, what kind of quack is that? What's going on? Is this a real hospital? What's the doctor doing? He wants you to pull back in your CO2. Because right now, you're expiring. You're getting rid of CO2 at a rate faster than it's being produced. Okay? That's what's happening. You're dropping the CO2. Okay? And so he wants you to bring back up your CO2 levels. Because when you blow off CO2, it's making this reaction go in this direction. Meaning that you're losing free hydrogen because it's reacting with bicarbon. Okay? And that's raising your pH. So what he wants you to do is bring back in some of that CO2 so you stop that nasty reaction right to left. Now, ordinarily, I wouldn't tell that story. Some people might consider it a HIPAA violation. Right? But I think Alex, understanding the gravity of the situation, the importance of the educational component here, I think we're okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good job.
Okay.
Troy was over here.
So what's the lesson learned here, Alex?
Boys drool.
What is it?
Boys drool.
Boys rule. I like that.
Drool.
Girls.
Girls drool, boys drool.
I've never heard that. I liked your first version when you said boys rule.
I did too.
All right. All right. I think there was some true component to that story. Now, so with respiratory, I was telling about alkalosis, wasn't I? Okay, so we're talking about respiratory alkalosis. With respiratory alkalosis, the situation is that you're getting rid of CO2 at a rate faster than it's being produced. Okay? And so it always involves some element of hyperventilation. The most common cause is panic attacks. Everyone realized here that was going on, right? That was a panic attack. Okay? Surprisingly common. You know, you'd be surprised how frequently we see panic attacks. Give you some other examples. Asthma, particularly mild asthma. Here's what happens. All right. Now, with mild asthma, a relative fewer numbers of airways are involved. You might have airways to a single lobe, which undergo bronchospasm. Means undergo narrowing. Okay. So if these are airways that are providing flow to the lower lobe, and they undergo bronchospasm, then these alveoli within the right lower lobe are not going to be as well ventilated. They're not going to receive as much oxygen, which can then be passed on to the bloodstream. So the blood that's draining the right and lower lobe is going to have a relatively low oxygen content. And of course, when it mixes with the rest of the pulmonary venous blood, the overall oxygen saturation is going to fall slightly, even though the other lobes are receiving good ventilation. Okay? But that drop in PO2, even if it's mild, is going to do what? It's going to trigger a respiratory reflex, to which we respond by increasing the rate and depth of ventilation. So when you increase the rate and depth of ventilation, through these wide open airways, what happens to CO2?
It's blown off.
CO2 is going to be blown off. That's going to force this equation right to left. You'll develop a respiratory alkalosis. That's a very analogous, similar thing that happens with pneumonia. If you would have a pneumonia, a lobar pneumonia confined to one lobe, that would result in a drop in PO2. It would activate the respiratory reflex. And because all of these other airways are wide open, as you increase the rate and depth of ventilation, you blow off CO2. Sometimes, the respiratory centers are located in the pons and the medulla. Sometimes you can have disturbances of these respiratory centers, whether it be from a tumor or some type of injury, where you disrupt the control or regulatory mechanisms. And so you develop what's called a central hyperventilation, where you start hyperventilating because of the disturbance that's going on here in the brainstem. Well, that would lead to a respiratory alkalosis. Right? All good with that? All right. Many times, in panic attacks, the duration of the disorder has not been long enough to allow for renal compensation. So your bicarb may in fact be normal. Now, if the disturbance has been going on long enough, then you're going to have renal compensation in a direction in which it brings the pH back down toward normal. Okay. Now, let's take the opposite of that. Let's go back and talk about respiratory acidosis. If alkalosis is caused by hyperventilation, respiratory acidosis is usually caused by disorders associated with hypoventilation, where CO2 climbs. And what happens? As CO2 climbs, the Chavalier's principle means that this equation is going to be pushed from left to right, and we produce more hydrogen. I think of this as a respiratory acid here, CO2. And so our pH drops. I'll tell you a common scenario for this. I'm not going to use anyone here. I didn't hear anyone who's what I don't hear. Everybody's safe. But it wasn't mine in another class.
Why does everyone continue to look at me?
No, her name was Puddin. What happened, Puddin was sowing her wild oats. Everybody's been there. High school, junior, senior. You get your fake ID, you start going to bars, maybe start using a few drugs. And lo and behold, what happens? Well, it turns out Puddin had a family history of drug abuse. There's a genetic component to this. And so Puddin and her friends started sharing Vicodins. But it started before that with cough syrup. But it advanced to Vicodin and then even OxyContin. And before you knew it, they began injecting. And so one day, Puddin's in the midst of this bad addiction. And one day she comes home and she looks in the house and her grandma's there, all of her siblings, her dad who was divorced 5 years ago, her mom's there, her neighbor is there, her auntie is there, her favorite relative. What's going on?
Intervention!
And as soon as she sits down and they start talking, she realizes what's going on. Okay, Hunter's even there. Turns out Hunter was a friend of Puddin. And so what Hunter says is, Puddin, I love you like a sister, but I can't see you doing this to yourself. Okay? If you don't get help, if you don't go for treatment, I'm going to cancel all of our Friday play dates. Okay?
Play dates?
Well, whatever you do. Okay? Okay. And then her mom kicks in. Puddin, you're my favorite child. Okay? I've always liked you, okay? But I can't stand to see this happen to you. If you don't go for help, okay, I'm gonna move out of the house. Yeah. Or dad kicks it. But I've always tried to stay in your life, even when your mom and I didn't get along. Even when I had to leave your mom. Okay, she was cheating on me. I've always made a point to go to lunch with you every other Wednesday. Okay? I can't do it anymore, not unless you get help. So you know how to do it with interventions. Okay? So everybody's in tears, you know, and of course in the beginning Puddin is fighting it, and then finally in the end, you know, because everybody is then breaking apart from her, she's not going to have a place to live, nobody will cook her any food anymore, things are really going downhill. She almost doesn't have a choice. She said, okay, all right, I'm going. And the best treatment centers usually keep you for about 3 months. And in fact, it's been shown that there's a correlation between time and treatment and success. The longer you stay, the lower the rate of what they call recidivism.
Well, doesn't it take like 90 days to develop a habit or something like that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. You know, I would think that that's probably about right. So, of course, when Puddin first goes, for that first week, she's just doing detox. But then for the rest of the 9 days, she's going, in essence, to school, okay, on drugs and rehab. And what they tell Puddin is that, okay, you have to begin changing people, places, and things. When you go back home, you can't hang with Hunter anymore. Okay? You can't go to the bars anymore. Okay? And you know that little job you had in the restaurant? Yeah, you're going to have to change that. The restaurant's not necessarily the best place for people who have drug or alcohol addictions. Okay? I'm just saying. A lot of servers have problems. Okay? In addition, when you go home, you got to do 90 and 90. You have to go to 90 meetings, 90 days. That's kind of the nature of the beast. Okay? You have to get a sponsor, and you have to stay on the straight and narrow. Okay? And they kind of scare you a little bit because they say, if you don't do these things, what does your future hold? Okay?